The book I'm going to be talking about today was recommended to me by a fellow booktuber, Steve, from Heroic Book Adventures. And I don't think he was recommending this book to me in a way of, oh, what a joy it will be for you to read this, what a fun time you are going to have. I think it was more of a, hey, you like disturbing stuff, how about you suck on this, I guess, because yes, this book is so disturbing, also just so bleak. I don't feel like you can say that you like this book in a way where you were like, what a good time I just had reading that. Because if you had a good time reading this, I kind of feel like you should maybe judge yourself. That's not to say it's a bad book, but I feel like you just kind of have to enjoy suffering in order to really, really enjoy this book. The book I am talking about is The Painted Bird by Jerzy Kosinski. Quick trigger warning, everything. There's everything in this book. Beware. Hello, welcome. My name is Leah. This is my channel, Dirty Little Literate, where I like to talk about books that are disturbing, disgusting, etc., what have you. And I feel like at this point, maybe people are trying to challenge me. Like, do you like disturbing books? Do you like this? I don't know that I could say I liked this book. I don't think it's a bad book. I just felt sad reading it, but I'm going to talk to you about the various disturbing things that happened in this book. I'm honestly not going to tell you all of them because we don't have all day, because there's just too many disturbing bullet points, but I'll give you some of the more upsetting ones perhaps. So let's get into it. So this book was written by a Jewish author in the mid-1960s, and it is supposed to take place during the Holocaust era, World War II, and the author got a lot of threats of violence, had actual violence occur against him and his family. It was very dangerous for him to have put this book out into the world, and the book itself is not so much focusing on the part of the Holocaust that would be focused in like the internment camps, the concentration camps. It's focused on the villages that are kind of on the outskirts. They're not necessarily the Jewish people who are being tortured and killed by the Nazis. The Nazis may come and check up on these villages and see, like, do you have anybody that we want to take? And if anybody is hiding anyone, they're trying to find that out. But basically the story centers around a 6-year-old boy who is abandoned by his parents. So his parents, I guess, quote unquote, abandoned him, but it was for his own safety. This was something that many parents were doing. They were hoping to protect him from the Nazis. He is considered in the book as either a gypsy or a Jewish stray. Those are the terms that they use. And so his parents send him away with this man who they end up losing contact with. So they are not able to figure out what happened to their son. Now, this 6-year-old boy is placed with a foster mom. So his foster mother, Marta, has all of these strange rules. She says you should never bathe more than twice a year. And she says that he should not look directly into her eyes or any of the animals' eyes because it could bring crippling illness upon them. She's saying, I guess, his gypsy eyes, that's what she's saying. So she's not like the most welcoming foster mother. It doesn't necessarily seem like he has horrible feelings towards her, even though it's not a great living situation and it's kind of uncomfortable. But within 2 months of living with her, Marta actually dies. He wakes up one morning, he goes to see her, she's sitting in her chair soaking her feet, and he's like, that's so crazy that she is like so still, just like a statue. He kind of tries to fiddle around and see if he can get her attention, and she is just, nope, she is focused, locked in, not paying attention to him. He thinks this is kind of crazy, and he's really cold, and normally she is the one who starts a fire, and because she is ignoring him, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. And he is sick, so how do you think making a fire goes? Not that well. So he accidentally sets their hut on fire. And he even watches Marta catch on fire, and he's like, damn, homegirl is committed to what she's working on because she's not moving, as her whole body is engulfed in flames. He runs out. He really just was so convinced that Marta is gonna come out. He's like, okay, eventually she's gonna be like, okay, can't handle it anymore. I'm gonna exit the situation and remove myself from the fire that is consuming my body. And obviously he is incorrect. After Marta dies, our main character, who doesn't have a name, by the way, we're never given his name. So I think it's supposed to kind of feel like this could be anyone during this time, because a lot of people had this type of experience. So our main character wanders into a random village, and the villagers are not kind to him by any means. They start grabbing him and throwing stuff at him. They throw dung at him. They unclothe him, put a sack over him, and then lock him in a closet. And eventually a woman named Olga is brought to him, and she's sort of like, I guess, I don't know, a medicine type lady. She is healing everybody's ailments in, potentially questionable ways, but she has a very great reputation. Her and our main character do not speak the same language, but she takes him under her wing. I guess she feels that he can assist her, and he does, and he learns a lot of things from her. But, she's doing some weird stuff, like she will set fires in people's ears to get gunk out of their ears. There are a lot of people who are suffering from some pretty severe injuries, and maybe they have gangrene and their leg is coming off, and she'll mush moldy bread and cobwebs into it, but she's very certain that that is the thing to do. So him and Olga do their thing for a while, and eventually some villagers throw him into the river, and he's sent off into the river, and he is no longer with Olga. And this is a theme throughout the book. He is just going to go from one place to another to another. He never gets comfortable in one place for too long. And so even with Olga, even though he liked her, the people he stays with who are good, so Olga, when she wants to punish him, she will bury him up to the top of his neck in dirt outside, and then birds will come and start to try to attack his head, and eventually she'll rescue him. This is a little 6-year-old, and he's being put in the dirt and attacked by birds, so he's having a rough go of it. But for him, Olga was cool, that was fine. So now he is floating on down the river onto the next one. Next, our main character ends up staying with a miller and his family. And this miller is married, and his wife, it seems that there is potentially a concern that she is cheating on him with the plowboy. And the miller is none too happy about this. So the miller actually invites the plowboy over to have dinner with him and his wife, which, if you think that they're about to have an adult conversation about what happened, you're just silly. That's not why. It's probably that the miller is going to get a spoon during dinner, walk behind the plowboy, stab the spoon into his eye, twist it around, scoop out his eyeball, and obviously you're not just going to do one eye and have that kind of asymmetry. You're going to do it to the other eye. So both eyeballs are scooped out onto the floor. He actually steps on one of the eyeballs when he walks by, and it's flop. And our little 6-year-old boy has to witness all of this. It's so horrible. And he becomes really afraid after this that at any given moment, maybe his eyeballs are going to fall out, because clearly they might not be a fixture in your face forever. So after that happens, he's okay, gonna escape during the night. So that is very short-lived as well. Now, next, he finds his way to someone else who will take him in, and generally the idea is that it's some sort of trade situation. The person is getting something out of taking care of him, even though everyone's kind of putting stuff at risk by taking him in. So this next man that he stays with is called Lek. And Lek is obsessed with birds. He's always catching birds. He knows all the birds. He's the bird guy. And our main character is small enough that he can kind of get into these certain spots and have more access to the birds. Now, you're wondering what fucked up thing happens with Lek, and I'll tell you. So Lek is in love with a woman in the village who the villagers refer to as Stupid Ludmilla. Now, Ludmilla often walks around naked and she likes sleeping with everyone. And so a lot of the women in the village don't like her because she be sleeping with their husbands. And Lek and Ludmilla are definitely in love, but that doesn't mean she's not sleeping with everyone else as well. But there's one point at which she is gone for quite some time. So Lek goes to a very dark place. He's really upset. He's being really mean to the boy. And one day she finally returns, but Lek is not there. He's been gone for a while. So Ludmilla proceeds and tries to SA our young boy. So very concerning. And as she's doing this, some other men approach, and it basically becomes a gangbang that she is very much here for. During this aggressive free-for-all gangbang, a group of villagers approach, and it is a bunch of women, and they have torches, and they have had it with Ludmilla, and they do not want her banging their husbands anymore, which they're not even that mad at their husbands. They're just directing everything at Ludmilla. And these women torture her. They start beating the shit out of her and doing disgusting things to her. One of which is they get a bottle that is filled with manure, a poop bottle, and they shove it inside of her. But these women, they beat her so horribly that she dies. After Ludmilla is killed, the boy is afraid and he doesn't want to stay with Lek anymore. So once again, he leaves. So the boy continues to live with a series of different people, and most of them are just bad situations. They all start to blur together, to be honest with you. And at one point in one of the villages he's staying in, it is invaded by German soldiers, and they find him. He's taken by one of the soldiers in particular, and it is clear that this man is likely going to shoot him. He takes him out into the field. It's just the two of them. But it turns out that not abso-fucking-lutely everyone in this story is the actual worst of the worst. We're bad, we're all bad, but some of us are less bad than others. The German soldier in this situation decides to kind of give the boy the green light to run off. It becomes clear that the German soldier is kind of giving him a pass, and he's basically shooting his gun to make it seem like these are the shots that are ringing out because he's killing this boy, but really he's telling the boy to run into the woods. So at least there was that. At least there's one person that's supposed to kill you that's not going to kill you. I guess that's fine and good-ish. I don't know. That's a silver lining in this book. It's not anything happy. It's just the absence of the absolute worst horribleness. There's definitely one of my least favorite things to read about in this story as well, which is anything horrible happening to animals. There's definitely a good bit of that. There's one instance in which he forms this bond with this horse that he finds while he's in between places, wandering from one village to the next, and this horse has a broken leg, and it's really struggling, and it's been left behind, and so him and the horse, they motivate each other to keep going, and the horse trusts him, and he loves this horse, and this horse is his only friend, and he keeps telling the horse, hey, if you just make it, we'll get someone who can fix you up. And eventually he actually finds the horse's original owner, and he's thinking that the horse is gonna have a great life now, but the original owner is no, his leg is fucked, we gotta kill him. And they have these other horses drag this horse to death. I hate it. I don't like that. And, he keeps wandering from village to village. He'll, witness a little casual murder here and there. He'll, get beat up a lot by other young boys. And sometimes what he has to do in self-defense is, fight back. And then because he's fought back, a lot of the villagers don't like him, and they think they're going to get in trouble for even having him in their village. So if he does anything other than, do things that benefit them, they are just not having it. So if he has to hurt one of the boys who's hurting him, he knows he has to leave the village. He can't stay there anymore because they're going to get him. There's also a lot of essay throughout this book. There's one horrible scene in which this young Jewish girl is brought to this village, and all the villagers are trying to assault her. And there's one man in particular who takes her, and I've never heard of anything like this really happening with humans, I don't think. I know it's something that can happen with animals, but somehow while he is R-wording her, they get stuck. Like, he cannot exit his body from hers, and it's hurting him. He's like screaming in pain, and she doesn't want him there obviously either, and they cannot detach. So they end up killing the girl, which I'm sure probably was their plan anyway. But, you know, for a young boy to be witnessing all this stuff is just, you know, you kind of can't imagine what he's going to turn out like as an adult if this is his baseline. That's crazy. I think one of the worst people that he has to live with, which honestly, they're all so horrible. I don't know how you pick a favorite horrible, or I guess least favorite horrible. This man that he lives with, Garbos, is the actual worst. This priest basically forces this man to take in our main character, and he is horribly mean, horribly violent to him constantly. This boy is black and blue all over his body all of the time, and he has a dog, a very, very aggressive dog that he also weaponizes against our main character. One thing in particular that he does quite a lot that sounds absolutely awful, he hangs the boy up by like his wrists from the ceiling for hours at a time, and will let the dog loose on him so that, you know, he's high enough up that like the dog has to jump to get him, but like he has to like raise his legs and knees like up so that, you know, he's out of reach from the dog. But having to do this for hours, like his whole body is becoming contorted. He makes him do this so regularly that his whole body like is changing its structure. It sounds so horrible. I feel so bad for him. This guy is the absolute worst, and it's really sad because he keeps thinking that if he says enough prayers that this will definitely get him out of the situation. So he just leans super hard into religion, and you know, that's the thing with hope, you gotta have hope. So he's like, okay, I guess I have something that I can at least do about this, otherwise he feels completely powerless. The boy actually ends up leaving this man because one day the boy is actually helping at this church service, and he accidentally like drops one of the heavy sacred religious objects, and the whole crowd goes nuts, and they are, you know, calling him names. So he knows that the villagers are going to resort to violence, but he's not sure what they're going to do. And what they do is so awful. They take him and they basically bring him to the community pile of poop where everyone's pooping, and they completely submerge him in the poop. And at one point he actually goes out to yell, and he finds that he can't speak. He's not able to make any noise. And at this point he essentially like loses his voice from this point on and becomes mute. And when he's put into this poop, he's almost choking and drowning on poop. And eventually they leave him thinking that he's going to die by poop. He is able to pull himself out of the poop when no one's really paying attention anymore. He goes into the forest, he tries to wipe off the muck, but can you imagine, like, they don't have showers around here. They like bathe, but he's not in a position where he can easily clean himself from all of this, and I think I would be vomiting the rest of my life. This sounds, I cannot imagine. Anyways, he's on to the next. He finds a new family to stay with, and this next family is buck wild. So we have the dad, Makar, and I guess his wife died not too long ago, and he has his son who's 20 and his daughter who's 19. And there's a lot of rumors about this family in the village, and none of the villagers really want to interact with them. And there is some talk that perhaps everyone in the family is having sex with each other. That is the rumor. So the 19-year-old daughter, I think her name is pronounced Uka. So she quickly starts asking our main character for sexual favors. She's not doing it in an aggressive way. She's doing it in like a, would you do this for me kind of way. Obviously still very much SA, but it's a different vibe than what he has witnessed when he's seen, you know, SA in the past. In his mind, this is a more consensual thing because she's being very gentle and he likes making her happy. And so they have a sexual thing that they have going on for quite some time. And during this time, he still doesn't talk. He's still mute. And so their connection is more just, I don't know. I mean, yes, it's sexual, but they, I guess, seem to care about each other, even though she's the worst, because she's 19, and at this point, I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but I don't even think he's 10 yet. I don't think so. And so he really cares for her. So at this point, this is like the happiest he's been, which is really sad. And eventually his parade is absolutely rained on, because we had definitely understood that the father and the brother have been having sex with the farm animals. But now one day he sees through like a crack into one of the other bedrooms, he sees that Uka is having sex with a goat with her father and brother in the room. So yes, all of the rumors are true. Everyone in the family is having sex with each other. They are having sex with the farm animals. And when he sees her having sex with a goat, he's absolutely horrified. He's heartbroken. Can you imagine if your heartbreak is the result of seeing someone that you think is like the love of your life having sex with a goat? So also while he's with his family, there's also a really, really, really terrible scene involving a rabbit. He is forced to kill and skin one of the rabbits, and he really doesn't want to, but he's afraid of Uka's dad, and he thinks he killed it and does not realize it's not dead. So then he's been skinning it and it wakes up, and the amount of detail of like what happened is just so, I do not require this amount of detail. But yeah, so he, after seeing Uka have sex with the goat, he's gotta go, okay? The next woman he ends up living with, who he likes, of course dies, because that seems to be what happens to any of the people he stays with that he actually enjoys. The next village he's in is invaded by a group called the Kalmuks, and I guess they are deserters of the Soviets and have joined the German army, and I guess their reputation is not good. Very, very bad. And when they come to the village, so they have dark features and they look more like our main character. So at first he's like excited to see them, like, oh hey, they look heroic and they look like me. And then these men go on to do the absolute worst possible things you could do to other human beings. They are torturing, essaying, murdering everyone. You know, they're making men watch their wives and daughters get essayed. They're essaying very small children in front of their parents. They're doing some super extra shit where they're like essaying people on top of horses. It's so far above and beyond. And while the worst possible things you could ever imagine happening to your loved ones are happening right in front of you, these men are just laughing and they think it's fucking hilarious. It is an absolutely horrifying chunk of pages. Our main character is actually discovered by one of the Kalmuks, and he like butts him with his gun in the chest, and that really fucks up his body. He's in a lot of pain. Thankfully, the Red Army appears and they go ahead and fuck up all of the Kalmuks and murder them all, and the remaining villagers are so pleased. And the Russians take our main character to the hospital. And he honestly has nothing but very, very positive experiences with these Russian soldiers. There are two Russian soldiers in particular, Gavrila and Mitka, who our main character becomes very close with. And they both take him under their wing, and they teach him all about communism and Russia and what it means to flourish under Stalin. And they put all of these ideas in his head about, you know, what it means to be a good man, especially a good communist man. And he really latches on to all of this. He thinks it all makes a lot of sense. He's really establishing his identity now, because obviously everything he tried before with religion did not work for him. And he's like, no, this is the thing. I'm supposed to be more in control of my own destiny. And so at one point, some of the Russian soldiers who were friends, particularly with his role model and mentor Mitka, are killed, and Mitka decides that he is going to get revenge. He actually takes our main character up into a tree with him. He's like a sharpshooter, and he murders people that I guess he feels are responsible for the deaths. We don't know if they're actually even responsible or they're just kind of connected to a group of people who could be connected. But ultimately, you know, he's gotten our main character to kind of assist with these murders, if you will. And so our main character is kind of taking a more active role in violence. But this is like the first time he's really felt like he has a place and a community. One day, our main character's Russian mentors tell him that the war is ending and that all of the children who are not with their parents are going to be taken to this center for these, you know, missing children to be reunited with their parents if possible, or to just kind of stay there if they have nowhere else to go. And our main character does not want to do this. He wants to stay with his Russian buddies, but they're like, hey, you need to at least go. If they can find your parents, they'll reunite you. And if not, after a couple months, then we will 100% come back for you and be reunited. So reluctantly, our main character agrees to go to one of these orphanage type places, and a lot of the other kids there are quite violent because they've had to learn how to survive in some pretty unthinkable situations. Now, he actually befriends this other boy who is also mute, and at first he doesn't want to because he's like, that boy isn't actually mute, he just doesn't talk. Like, it's a known thing. Like, that boy has also somehow, I guess, acknowledged that he can talk. He just doesn't want to because he doesn't have anything to say. And so he doesn't want people thinking by associating with this boy, like, oh, I also can talk, I'm just choosing not to. He's like, nah, I actually cannot. But eventually they end up being friends because they kind of have saved each other from some bad situations. So they end up forming a bond. And there's one point at which there is a man in the village who beats up our main character pretty bad. It's a rough situation. And anyways, our main character's new friend decides, hey, I'm going to help you get revenge. And so these two boys have been studying this train and the train tracks that are near this orphanage place, and they have figured out how to mess with the train track equipment so they can steer the train off course. One day, his new bud shows him like, hey, watch this. And he reroutes the train, and the train ends up crashing and kills a ton of people inside. And the new bud is just like, look what I did for you. And our main character is kind of like, like, kind of wasn't expecting that. Anyway, you know, tons of people got killed, but then we find they go to the village one day, and the man that they wanted to kill, who always was taking that train, is still alive. So they just killed a bunch of innocent people. But obviously our main character is so jaded by this point, I don't think he's super broken up about all of these innocent people being killed. And by this point in the book, so he's like a teenager, and he does not seem so innocent anymore, but like, honestly, how could he? After all of this, he's definitely jaded. He doesn't have as much like compassion and empathy for people, and honestly, I don't know how you would survive if you have a lot of compassion and empathy and have to see and deal with all the things he has seen and dealt with. So it's understandable. Now, one day, would you believe, guess who shows up at the orphanage? Our main character's parents show up at the orphanage. And interestingly enough, when our main character is told this, he is not happy, which you would think that's kind of surprising. You know that they're going to be so excited to see him and they've been looking for him. This would be a much better living situation than he's had throughout the majority of these last few years. And he doesn't want to go with them because he really feels connected to his Russian mentors and feels like that's, you know, his identity. That's what he's tied to. He feels like he barely even remembers his parents. But when his parents see him, they're obviously very emotional. And they say that he has a specific birthmark in a specific area. And he considers, like, can I lie about that? And then he realizes he can't. So he does show them the birthmark so they know it's their son. And so he does go with them, but he's not very happy about it. And it seems like he has a hard time adjusting to living with his parents. They seem like very nice people. He actually finds out he has a little brother, but I think that the stability and consistency of his new home life, he doesn't like it. He's used to kind of never knowing what's about to happen. So to him, this feels boring, predictable. He doesn't like it. And so his parents kind of don't know what to do because they can tell he's not happy, but they're just so grateful that he's alive. They don't want to say anything to upset him. And he even breaks his little brother's arm at one point. Not in like a super intentionally malicious way, but like he was like annoying him and in his way, and he's just trying to get him, I don't know, out of his way, I guess. It wasn't like he was like so excited for him to be in pain or anything, but obviously after everything he's been through, I feel like this behavior is kind of expected. And so, you know, the parents just try to be extra cautious and careful, and he just really doesn't want to be controlled. I think the idea of if you at 6 years old were pretty much on your own and had to figure out where you were going to go, who you were going to be with, all of these things, to then be told as a teenager when you can come and go and things like that is kind of crazy. So it seems like he sneaks out a lot at night, and he likes the kind of nightlife and the debauchery of it all. There's one crazy instance where at one point he tries to go to the movie theater. He'd been waiting in line forever, and he's like short, maybe like 1 coin or something that he dropped. The movie theater attendant tells him, you know, go get your coin from home, come back, and you can just pop on over here and I'll remember you and let you in, and you won't have to wait in line again. And of course, when he goes back, it's not the same person, and because he's mute, he can't explain himself, so the person doesn't understand him and kind of just says, tough luck, whatever. And he is so pissed over this that he comes back with a brick and he goes up on the roof, and he sees the movie theater attendant standing down below outside, and he drops the brick on his head. So I'm assuming he dies from this. So yes, our main character has definitely leaned into his violent tendencies. He has a little taste for vengeance now. So our main character at this point, he's not growing. His health doesn't seem the best, and obviously just mentally he's not doing the best either. And so the doctor says, you know what, he needs some mountain air. So his parents actually go send him to live on the mountains, and a ski instructor is there kind of looking out for him. And at this point he's kind of like, you can't rely on no one or nothing, whatever. And he's just skiing down the mountain every day, and that's kind of his life. And then one day he's told he has a phone call, and once he gets this phone call, he is overjoyed because he realizes it's his Russian mentor, Mitka, has found him. He's calling him to say, hi, how you doing, buddy? And our main character is actually able to start reciting these Russian songs. He starts talking animatedly, and he has found his voice again. So this is actually how the story ends. So, I mean, I guess for our main character, this is a happy ending. He is reunited, I guess, with this person via phone. And comparatively, yes, this is the happiest part of the book, but like after everything, it's like, okay, you got a phone call from a dude. Like, I don't know. It's just sad that that's like what brings him so much joy. And I think it's also sad that being reunited with his parents did not bring him any joy. But ultimately, I guess if he's happy, I'm happy. I don't know. I think this is a really important book, even though it's a fictional novel, you know, with historical fiction, allowing people to see what someone else's experience would have been like during this super brutal time in history is so important. And I think one thing that the author mentions is that a lot of people claimed that he was blowing things way out of proportion and was exaggerating quite a lot. And, you know, I think there are a lot of books and movies and things you can consume that are about the Holocaust that are super brutal. But I think, you know, one like this that's not taking place in the concentration camps, but is still connected to what's going on, you know, having such a detailed horror story about what that was like. He was saying that he knew so many people who read it and who were like, no, yeah, we all have stories exactly like this. So I think it's really important to have a book like this, but I cannot say it's enjoyable to read a book like this. I think it was very brave of the author to have had this published. I think in the beginning, it sounds like he really didn't want anyone to know anything about him. He just wanted the story to stand alone by itself, and eventually he became a little bit more willing to be connected to the book. I love a book when I can just power right through it and I'm just so excited to consume all of it. And this is not one of those books you really had to pace yourself, be like, okay, I read a few pages, let me go forget the few pages I just read. So yeah, this is one of those trigger warning, covering every trigger there is type of book. So if you are willing to brave it, and yeah, thanks Steve for recommending this book to me and just making me sad, I guess. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me if you wanted to listen to this and be sad too, I guess. And I will see you next time. Bye.